Um, can someone just let me know that you can see my screen? It should be an agenda that says today's discussion.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to give it, we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to be respectful of people's time. We're at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to give it about 30 seconds and then we're going to get going. Thanks, folks, for joining. Okay, well, welcome everybody to our second Tuesday. My name is John Mikos. I am a precinct organizer in precinct 303 in El Paso County and currently serving as the chairperson of the El Paso County Democratic Party. I want to welcome you to the second Tuesday. If you haven't been on one of these before, the purpose here is to share some information and have some discussion. Today's topic is around the road to the general election in 2022. And here are our discussion topics. We're going to cover what are the political offices that will be in the 2022 general election, that will be races. We'll talk about the election timeline and the party's role in that timeline. Spend a little bit of time on caucus, assemblies, and the primary process, how to get involved, and then open Q&A. Now, here's what I'd like to ask as we're going through. What we'll do is I'll cover each topic. I have a few slides on each, and then I'll pause and ask for any questions. And if you want to raise your hand, go ahead. But keep those in the form of a question. And then when we save some time at the end, we can have a little bit of a more broad discussion, and I welcome anyone who has questions on anything regarding the party, elections, what's going on. So that's the plan for tonight. We'll ask that you raise your hand electronically using the icon, and I'm going to ask both Chandra and Brooklyn, who are on our tech committee, to assist in that process in terms of calling people out. Okay, so without further ado, the next few slides cover the political offices that will be contested in the 2022 general election. And I'm going to start with the legislative offices. So the El Paso County, we're going to focus here on El Paso County. The El Paso County offices, for which they're state offices, but the districts that lie within El Paso County for the state Senate that will be up in the 2022 election are Senate District 11 and Senate District 9, as well as Senate District 35, which is a Senate district that lies partially within El Paso County, and it actually runs all the way to the Kansas border. Now, these districts are different than the districts that you are probably familiar with. They're the result of the decennial redistricting. And the general rule that was followed, or the rule that was followed, was that if there was an incumbent that was in that district whose term had not expired, if there was a single incumbent who was residing in that district and whose term has not expired, then there would be no election for that district in 2022. And that there are two cases of that within El Paso County. That is Senate District 10 and Senate District 12, which both have incumbents whose term has not expired by the end of 2022. So those will not be contested elections in 2022. They will be in 2024. Now, for those seats for which there is either no incumbent or for which there is an incumbent whose term has not expired, then there will be a contested election. And those are Senate District 11, Senate District 9, and Senate District 35. Again, I'll have some questions at the end, but I wanted to make sure everybody was aware. You can see on the right-hand side, the map that gives you roughly, not roughly, gives you a picture of what the boundaries of those districts are. The Colorado redistricting website, if you go to just Google Colorado Redistricting Commission maps, you will get to a site that can take you to the current maps, and you can see those in more clarity. The next slide are the state house districts that will be up in 2022. There are about really 8.5 districts, house districts that lie within El Paso County. 7 or 8 of those, and then another district there are 7 districts that lie wholly within El Paso County, and there are 2 districts, the ones with the asterisks, that actually cross county boundaries. House seats are 2-year terms, so there will be an election for every House seat, whether there's an incumbent in that who is term limited or not. And the 2 seats that I'll just bring to your attention that actually cross district boundaries. One is House District 56, which is on the Eastern Plains, and also, like the corresponding Senate district, runs from the eastern part of El Paso County all the way to the Kansas border. The other districts lie essentially entirely within the county. There is one small caveat to that. House District 18, which sits on the west side, it runs kind of from I-25 west, covers the west side, Old Colorado City, into Monument, and all the way up to Cascade. It actually technically is a multi-county district because it includes the town of Green Mountain Falls. And Green Mountain Falls, a small portion of Green Mountain Falls, actually falls on the Teller County side of the line. There actually are only a very few number, don't quote me on this, but I think there's about 22 people, registered voters, I should say, who are in the Teller side of House District 18. And we actually know that there are only 4 Democrats that are there. So essentially, House District 18 is a district that lies entirely within El Paso County, but there is that small caveat with respect to Green Mountain Falls. All right, let me go to the next slide, which is the county offices that will be open up for election in 2022. There are 2 county commission seats. Now, the County Commission of El Paso County is a 5-member single district commission. So each of the 5 members represent a geographical district. There are no at-large seats within El Paso County. That is, there are at-large seats in other counties that doesn't exist in our county. So basically, in each election cycle, there are either 2 seats or 3 seats that are open, and or that are being contested. And in 2022, the 2 seats will be House District 1, which basically lies in the northern part of the county, and not House District, County Commission District 1, which lies in the northern part of the county, and County Commission District 5, which is basically in the center of the county. The other districts, 2, 4, and 3, do not have the elections in 2022. They don't come up, and they're not available until 2024. Now, all of the countywide officers, the countywide administrative positions that are elected positions, are open and part of the 2022 general election cycle. That includes clerk and recorder, sheriff, treasurer, assessor, surveyor, and coroner. Now, I do have a couple of asterisks there that I want everybody to be mindful of. One is that if you're someone or is thinking of running for sheriff, there is a background check that is required under state law. And then also, I do want to point out that there are unique professional qualifications associated with both the surveyor and the coroner position. So if either of those positions are something that you are thinking of running for, please give me a call first. I'd like to talk with you about them and make sure that you're fully aware of the professional qualification needs around the surveyor and coroner position. They're not to be taken lightly. They're very important positions. And if you're something you're thinking of running for, it's important that you make sure you have the necessary professional qualifications. The other county offices, or the other offices that are associated with El Paso County that are part of the general election in 2022 are the congressional district. Now, the U.S. Congress, as a result of the commissioning, their congressional district 5 is the main district, and it will lie entirely within El Paso County. So it is not a multi-county district anymore. Congressional District 5 lies wholly within El Paso County. But there are two other, but not all of El Paso County lies in Congressional District 5. So I really should be listing on this slide the other two congressional districts. The Eastern Plains, there are about 8,000 people, I think, or so, that on the very Eastern Plains, that does include the town of Rama, will be part of Congressional District 4. Also, uniquely, or to point out, that the town of Green Mountain Falls will not be part of Congressional District 5, but will lie in Congressional District 7. That's a bit of an inverse from the way the redistricting for Green Mountain Falls. That's a bit of an inverse. Green Mountain Falls for the state legislative districts sits entirely within the districts that are associated with El Paso County. But for the congressional district, it lies outside. And that is because there were two separate commissions, and they wanted to keep they both wanted to keep Green Mountain Falls whole and not divide that municipality or that town, but they landed with different ways of achieving that. And so a little bit of a unique thing. So if you're from Green Mountain Falls and you have some questions, please call the local party. We'd be happy to explain a little further. The other offices, which are not federal offices, they're state offices, but they follow the district lines of the congressional district, is the State Board of Education, which is a 6-year term and will be an elected official in elected office that's contested in the 2022 election. I also want to make a special note about, because you may have seen it in the paper, about the CU Regent. The other office, which is staggered on a different term than the State Board of Education for our district, is the CU Regent. You may know that the current incumbent has resigned effective January 1st. Now, that does not mean that there will be an election in 2022 for that CU Regent position. The state law provides that the governor actually solely, the governor solely makes the appointment to fill that. The governor has a press release that's out on it and is accepting applications through the appointments process. And so if you're interested in that CU Regent, we're happy to point you to the boards and commissions website where you can work with them, but that is not a position that the local party is helping to organize in any way. Okay, I've said a mouthful here, and I've covered the political offices in the 2022 general election. I'm actually going to stop sharing, and I will pause and ask if anyone has any questions about what offices are open in 2022. And if I can't answer, I'll see if someone else on the call can, or we'll work to get you an answer. If you have a question, please raise your hand using the raise your hand emoji.
I see no hands.
I see no hands either. We have a shy crowd tonight. Okay, that is fine. I will go ahead and reshare my screen if I can figure out how. Okay, Chandra, can you see my screen up, today's discussion?
Yep, we're good.
Fantastic. Okay, so the next thing we're going to cover is the election timeline and the party's role. And we have a couple of slides there, and then again, I'll pause and see if there's any questions. So first of all, the election timeline. Now, we have not put everything in the election timeline. There are all kinds of administrative things that happen with an election. There are also all kinds of timelines for filing, whether one wants to circulate petitions or participate in the assembly process. And if you are interested, if you're a candidate or interested in being a candidate, please call the local party office. We'll be happy to talk you through what those timelines are. We don't have all of those fully here, but they are also on the Secretary of State's office as well. But we've taken a few that I just want to highlight out, kind of more of general interest. So the first thing to remember is that the deadline to register as a Democrat in your precinct to participate in caucus is February 7th. Now, it's actually a specified days before caucus, so that could change to be as late as February 11th. But right now, the date is established as February 7th. But regardless, if you're not registered as a Democrat, then tomorrow go out and register as a Democrat. That way you don't have to worry and you can participate in caucus. But for sure, the deadline to register as a Democrat and participate in caucus doesn't mean you can't register as a Democrat anytime, all the way up to the general election. But to participate in caucus, you've got to register by September 7th. Now, caucus, we get into March, is in El Paso County. It will be on March 5th, more specifically on the afternoon of March 5th. And we'll come in a few minutes to a little more detail about how caucus will be run. That is a Saturday, and it's a Saturday afternoon. Then assembly, and again, our PTO committee is meeting, and all the details are not worked out yet. But the current working plan, the current plan is that March 19th will be assembly, and I'll talk about that. That's also a Saturday, 2 weeks. So more to come on assembly. Now, CD5 assembly is still a bit of a TBD. Traditionally, congressional assemblies happen with the state assemblies. But the exception is that for counties, for any political district that lies wholly within a county, the county can organize the assembly if that's what it chooses to do, or have the state organize it. Denver County, for instance, which is the other county that has an assembly entirely within the district, organizes its own CD1 assembly. Our PTO is looking at it right now. We have a new CD5 party chair for that. That's Stephanie Bowman, and she and the PTO will work out exactly how we're going to do the CD5 assembly. So that's a bit of a TBD, but those are kind of the reasons why. And then the state assembly, which is on April 19th, the state assembly will be a virtual assembly this year, also via Zoom, and we have a little more to follow on that. So the whole assembly process, which I think this is a pretty in tune audience here. You probably have been through those things before. Those will be done by April. And then we will then move into June, where we have the primaries. June 6th is the last day for a person to change their party affiliation or to become affiliated with a party if they're not already do so, and to participate in the primary. The ballots also will drop from the various clerks and recorders across the state for that primary. And then the end date or the primary date is June 28th. And then the election ballots, the general election ballots will drop on October 17th. And then on November 8th is our general election. So this is really the road to the general election 2022. It begins with caucus and it ends with the General Assembly. Now, a little bit about what the party's role in this. So now the El Paso County Party. Well, what does the Democratic Party do locally to support the entire election process? Well, we do a couple of things. First, we have a responsibility to help candidates get on the primary ballot. And there are two paths to the primary ballot. One is the assembly process, and two is to circulate petitions. So what does that mean? The assembly process is where first we have delegates that are chosen at selected at caucus, and they go to the various assemblies, be it the county assemblies, the district assemblies, the CD5 assemblies, or the state assembly. And any candidate who gets more than 30% of the delegates at the applicable assembly moves on to the primary. So theoretically, there could be as many as 3 candidates who qualify for the primary by going through the assembly process. There's an alternate path to the primary. The candidate can circulate a petition to be eligible for the ballot, for the primary. The number of only registered Democrats can sign those petitions for the Democratic primary. So even though we do have open primaries and an unaffiliated voter can vote in the primary, an unaffiliated voter cannot sign a petition for a candidate to make his or her way to the Democratic primary. So there is that, in a nutshell, are the two paths. Now, just to complicate things a little bit more, a candidate can choose both paths, can sort of work both paths to the primary. There is a little bit of caveat, and that is that if the candidate is doing both paths, then even if their petition is successful, they must have at least 10% of the voting delegates at the assembly, or their petition is not valid. So there's a little bit of a risk there. If a candidate goes through the petition process, they still have to make sure that they get at least 10% of the assembly. Okay, so that was a lot of explanation around the party's role. One of the things the local party does is to help candidates answer any questions around that, navigate through that process. The second thing is that your local party organizes the caucus. And the caucus is the event where Democrats come together for multiple purposes, to include our platform, choosing delegates, election judges, and also choosing delegates to the assembly. And we'll talk about that in a moment. The party also has a responsibility to promote clean campaigns. Now, this is more of a soft responsibility. It's kind of an implied responsibility, but the party and the party officers will work with the candidates to if we observe that they're not following any fair campaign or reporting requirements, we'll do our best to bring that to their attention. The The candidates are still responsible for their own reporting. We don't take any responsibility there. But if we find a candidate is having some trouble, or anything, we want to help them by at least pointing that out, and so they know earlier than later. We'll also promote party unity. We want to come out of the primaries, and we want to be a united party. So the party will act in a way to promote party unity. We have a principle in Colorado of neutrality and equal treatment. Now, what does that mean? That means that the party will not make any official endorsement until we have a candidate. And where the party puts forth its resources, we will do it in an equal way to every candidate that is trying to qualify for the primary. So what does that mean? Well, if a candidate for an office needs help navigating through the path to get on the primary, we'll sit down and work with them, make sure they understand it. We would do the same for the other candidate. Equally, we want to make sure that that all Democrats are aware of who is running. So we will use our social media, we'll use our party newsletter to make announcements that candidates have to increase general awareness, but we'll do our best to make sure that happens in a very even-handed way. So if candidate A is having a meet the candidate event, we would advertise it, or not advertise, but we would announce the newsletter, and we would equally be willing to do the same thing for the other candidate. So that's what we mean by neutrality and equal treatment. Now, that does not mean that individuals within the party, can't support whom they think is the right candidate in any kind of primary situation, or work in their own primary, or their own way towards that candidate. But it does mean that any party resource, which does include our van resource and our party resources in van, should not be used to give candidates lists and those types of things, until we're through that primary process. So neutrality and equal treatment are an important principle of the Colorado Democratic Party and an important principle of the El Paso County Democratic Party. The next thing is voter protection. And this is an increasingly, it's always been an important role for the Democratic Party. It is taking on a new role, and I will tell you, it is occupying a lot of my personal attention. We are seeing an effort. We all know this, what came out of the most recent, presidential election, the events of January 6th, groups that are walking around and promoting these conspiracy theories that somehow elections are being stolen, and really just an assault on the integrity of our elections, means that we have to really keep our guard up. And we have to be very, very vigilant about voter protection in a way that we never have before. So I just want you to know that's often not something that you hear a lot about what the party does, but voter protection is a key component. It is a fundamental thing, and it is a primary responsibility of the local party, and it's one that we take very seriously. And if you have any thoughts or concerns about that, please call me directly. Our voter protection officer is Mr. Michael McDay. I think Mike is on this, so when we get to Q&A, I'm putting him on the spot here, but perhaps Mike can take any questions regarding that as well. Closely associated with voter protection is the party's responsibilities for election judges and what is called the Canvas Board. Out of caucus, we asked for people to volunteer to become election judges. Those election judges' lists are validated by the party and then forwarded to the clerk and recorder's office. And the clerk and recorder reaches out individually to election judges to bring them on. These are paid positions. The other major political party, the Republican Party, also appoints election judges. And then there is actually a mechanism for unaffiliated voters and voters who are affiliated with third parties to directly apply to the elections office to become election judges. So these election judges are in and they're watching the votes being certified. They're watching the things being opened. They're sitting there when there's voter certification, all of those kinds of things. They're really part of the integrity of the election process, which we can be very proud of. There is one election judge position that actually has to be appointed by name by the county chair of the various 64 parties, and that is the canvass board member. It actually is an election judge member. The canvass board consists of one representative from each of the major political parties and the clerk and recorder, and the election judge is the canvass board member, who is the election judge, has a role in sort of making sure that that final certification happens and that the clerk and recorder is reporting to the Secretary of State numbers that are true and accurate and a reflection of the vote that actually occurred. So it's a bit, let's say, ministerial, but I don't want to underscore how important it is what a party does. And then finally, the fun stuff, okay, which is it's last, but it certainly is not least. It is really fundamental to what we do as a party, and that is to get out the vote. And we depend upon our precinct organizers, our volunteers, our House district chairs, our party officers to really organize and get that out. And that is door knocking, that is dropping leaflets on walls, that is social media campaigns, that is using our data and analytics teams to start to target particularly communities that may not come out in off-year elections, and to get the word out using every means we can. Because we know that when we show up, we win. And when we don't win. And that's why, particularly in non-presidential election years, it is vitally important for all of us that are associated with the Democratic Party, that care about our values, do everything we can to get out the vote. So right now, as we work through the caucus and the primary and the assemblies, we're sort of really working through all the mechanics of getting those candidates through. But once we have our candidates, then the fun part begins, and it's getting out the vote. Okay, I've done a lot of talking. I'm going to hope that somebody has a question, and I will pause a minute and stop screen, and then we'll get to the more details about caucus and assembly. Lisa, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that the state assembly is actually on the 9th and not the 19th.
Oh,
for people who weren't reading the chat.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. That's a typographical error. And Lisa, I really appreciate you bringing that to it. Any other, Chandra, can you help me to see if there's any other hands that are up?
I do not see any other hands up right now.
I think we got an audience.
Jane's hand went up.
Oh, there, Jane.
Hi. Hi. Yes, this is actually a little bit late, but can you tell us, of all these offices that are going to be open and up for election, where we have incumbents?
Yes, actually, we don't have any incumbents that are running for any of the offices. Everyone who's running, who is declared so far, is not an incumbent. No. I take that back. Mark Snyder has declared that he will be running in House District 18, and he is an incumbent in House District 18. The other seats, the other House District seats and the 2 Senate District seats, we do not have incumbents in them. There are Republican incumbents in other seats, but so does that answer your question? And Jane, the other point I'll make is that we still are early in the cycle in terms of declared candidates. So don't make an assumption that we've seen all the candidates that are to be declared.
I wasn't worried.
I will make okay. Amy has made a great point, and I've been so focused on El Paso County. We do have incumbents in the statewide offices, which I haven't been covering tonight, but just I think this is a pretty politically in tune. So all of the statewide officers, the governor and lieutenant governor, which run as a joint ticket, the secretary of state, the state treasurer, the attorney general, are all candidates for office, as well as our senior U.S. Senator position. And there are incumbents running in all of those seats. In some cases, there are other candidates who have declared and filed affidavits with the Secretary of State. So does that answer your question, Jane?
It does. Thank you.
Good. So I see Rich Lins is on, and then we'll go to Mike Madej. Rich.
Yes, hi. My question is, how is the plank in the party platform generated?
Okay, the plank in the party platform begins at caucus, where we capture the caucus, the county ideas for the caucus for the platform. Those then go to the assembly, and where they are voted on. And I'm not going to go into all the details. Maybe at the end, we can reserve a little bit of time for that. Maybe Lisa can jump in as well. And those then go up to the state in two forms. One is called a majority report, and then one is called a minority report. The minority report consists of those platform items that did not get endorsed by the county assembly. And then from that point, the state platform committee, as part of the state assembly process, takes all of the majority and minority reports that they received from the various counties, and they develop the platform. So, Rich, does that answer your question? And we can certainly come back to it again at the end.
Yes, again, when I need to do something.
Yeah, and I know you've got a particular. You and I have talked about a particular platform item that you've got in mind, and
Thank you.
And what we need to make sure, Rich, I'll just cut to the chase, is that at caucus, you and others who have that same platform idea in mind show up, and you have that written language, and you have that submitted at caucus. And I'm happy to give you a call afterwards and talk you through that.
Thank you.
And can
Lisa, yeah, please go ahead. Was that Lisa that had
meeting with the state platform committee, they are doing it a little, and so there is still some discussion that we have to have here in El Paso County for that. So you may want to wait until we meet with platform to call Rich about that, because some of the changes that they're making, so that it's not, because a lot of the places are doing their caucus not hybrid, but actually fully virtually. So in order to make that easier to flow, they're actually doing it ahead of time through a different process. So that will be being discussed in our meetings, and then we will get back to you on that. Just
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, Chandra. So, Rich, it may be a little bit of time before we get back to you. You know, I don't want to give you bad information. And Chandra, thanks for. I know you're on the platform committee, and I'm not, so you're closer to it. Okay, Mr. Madej.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight something that I think is important coming up in back to the countywide offices. You know, we've had Republican clerks and recorders in El Paso County since I think since Abe Lincoln, probably. I don't know how long that's been. And some of them have been okay to work with, and some of them have been not okay to work with. Well, and Chuck Broerman's term limited, so there'll be a new county clerk one way or another. Steve Schleicher, who's the county assessor now, is running for that office. Am I correct that Chuck is running for his office then?
Chuck is running for the treasurer's office.
Treasurer. So they play that because, you know, you can only be 8 years in one place. So to get a full career out of it, they trade the offices amongst themselves. And these are kind of the establishment Republicans, if you will. And, you know, personally, working with Chuck, I've found him to be pretty helpful in most cases. So I don't want to say he'll be missed, but he may be, because the other thing that's going on with the Republican Party as they, shift to this radical, it's not a right wing party, it's a fascist party. I mean, it's becoming a fascist party. However you define fascism, they're it. And one of their main strategies is to get rid of free and fair elections. So county clerk, being the chief election officer, it's a real important job, especially in this county. So I'm hoping we have good countywide folks running as Democrats for all offices in El Paso County, but I hope our best person that's running is going to be running for clerk and recorder, because I think this could be a year where that position shifts from, a Republican that's an okay administrator and basically fair with what they do, to somebody that has an agenda. And that what happened with the canvas board, where their representative refused to approve certification of the election this fall, is just, that's scary stuff, so I just want to throw that out there. And I think the state party's aware of a lot of this. I don't think it's isolated in El Paso County, but if I was them and I wanted to go after a county clerk position, this would be the place to do it. And when I say them, that's not the Republican Party. It's this the Stop the Steal fascist wing of the Republican Party. And who knows what kind of mischief they could pull in the 2024 election, coming up. So somebody wants to run for something, think about county clerk. I think it pays like what, $500,000 or something. It's a lot of money, way more than those people are worth. But anyway, that's my editorial.
It is a six-figure salary. Okay, any other questions? Chandra, do you see, I can't see everything. Do you see any other hands up? Okay, Mike, if you want to put your hand down on your
I have no hands besides mine.
okay, fantastic. Mike, thank you for making that point, and all the points that were made. Okay, I am going to go ahead and share screen again. So we've talked about the party role, and I'm going to move into caucus, assemblies, primary, and then how to get involved. And then we'll reserve a little time for open discussion at the end. Okay, so caucus. Okay, caucus will be on Saturday, March 5th. This is consuming our time right now. And so everything I'm about to tell you is, kind of where the current planning is. And, but until it's all done and finalized, I can't tell you it's final. Caucus is the event, and I think everybody on this is a pretty, this crowd probably knows it. We do things like select precinct organizers, which are also known as PCPs, precinct committee persons, the delegates to assembly, and the platform items. There can also be a straw poll done. There is no mandate for a straw poll to be done as part of the state initiative. But if the local counties want to pick a local office to do that, that can be done. And so we're working through the mechanics of all that kind of stuff. I can't tell you what we're going to do there, but that's being looked at. Now, caucus, the plan for caucus this year is, and we're still working through the technical aspects here, but is to do it as a hybrid event. Now, what does that mean? That means that we are working hard so that a person can show up in person at the caucus, or a person can Zoom in. And that sounds easy, but there's actually a lot of technical challenges to pull that off. For those of you that were part of the Central Committee meeting, you saw us do that. I think it was done successfully. And we had a pretty effective, without a lot of hiccups, hybrid meeting where the people in the room could see the people that were on screen. People that were on screen could at least get a sense of who the people who were in the room was, and everybody could hear each other. That's got to happen. It's a two-way street in order to do a hybrid. It's more than just video streaming the event. Now we have to take those lessons learned from what we did at the Central Committee meeting that we had in August, and really basically execute that by a factor of 8. Because we're planning to organize the precincts in clusters that are, basically equivalent to the various House districts. So we'll have 8 physical locations throughout the county. These will either be schools or union halls or libraries, okay? And the exact list is being worked. We have a working list right now, but basically there'll be one location kind of corresponding to one House district. And then we will use the Zoom for people that want to pre-register. You'll have to pre-register in order to be Zooming in, and then to Zoom into that. Now, we think that this is the most inclusive way. We actually think this is the way of the future. Increasingly kind of coming off of COVID as we move back, like all things, necessity is the mother of invention, and the necessity of what we've all been going through in the pandemic has enabled us to really think about using these technologies in different ways. And the good part of that is that it has enabled people who couldn't participate or had more challenges participating in in-person caucuses, being able to participate. This might include working families or people who just can't get, for whatever reason, to the caucus. So we want to make that available. We want people to be inclusive. At the same time, we respect that people do like to have that in person, that is also part of democracy. Being able to meet with your neighbor and be in a school cafeteria and being able to do that. So we're trying to find a way that we can do that and meet both. And that is the way that we'll have caucus going forward. There's a lot of folks working hard on it right now and more to follow, but that's the plan. Now, Assembly, and in a moment, I'm going to put Lisa Wilkes on the spot if she has anything to share. Assembly process is organized by a committee. It's called the Permanent Committee, the PTO, that is working through how the assembly process will work. I think I mentioned the date, April 19th. The working plan is virtual, and more to follow on that. But let me just ask Lisa if there's anything she wants to share for the group. Lisa?
Thanks, John. The only thing I wanted to share is that there was one House district listed that wasn't listed, House District 22, on your list. I think that's already going to be corrected. Sorry, I'm being nerdy again. And you guys should remember me. I've done this. This will be my 6th year doing assembly and convention. And we've been pretty successful. People have said we did amazing jobs, both when we were in person and online. So I think that we will have another successful meeting again. And I'm here to answer questions more than anything. I don't really have anything else.
Great. Well, fantastic. And thank you for what you're doing, Lisa. So then, I think I mentioned, now the multi-county assemblies. The multi-county assemblies or multi-county districts are administered by the state. Now you may, I'll go back to the maps a little bit, just very quickly. You may remember that I said that there were 2 House districts that are multi-county. That's 18 and 56. But there is one caveat. We've discussed this with the Teller County Democratic Party chairperson and with the state executive director, and they have both concurred that House District 18 can be organized by the El Paso County Democratic Party. Now, we will have to work to get the delegates from the Teller County for that. The 4 Democrats that are there, that are in House District 18, we have to work through a lot of details there. Lisa?
Yeah, so we also have a couple things to decide, but whether or not we do have the ability to host it, which is because those 4 people in Teller County also have to do their Teller one. So we have to make sure it's not on the same day, or it wouldn't really work. So there are some decisions still to be made and information to find out before the PTO makes that decision.
Fantastic. And yeah, thanks for qualifying that. It really is something the PTO is still working to decide. I should just caveat by just saying that Teller County has told us that it's okay if we want to go forward with that. That's probably the more accurate description. So thank you, Lisa, for that clarification. But there's no expectation that House District 56, which I think covers 7 different counties. And El Paso County, although geographically it makes up a big part of El Paso County, numerically, I think El Paso County is less than 20% of that House district. Similarly, there is one Senate district that is multi-county, Senate District 35, and that Senate district is also multi-county. So, we haven't asked if we could post it. I don't think that there would be any expectation that we would. So, yeah. Other than that, I think we talked a little bit about the CD still being a bit of an open question, and then the state assembly, and I stand corrected, it's actually on the 9th, and then our primary, which is in June. Now, if coming out of assembly, there is no candidate who's tried to petition to use the petition process, then coming out of or if there is only a single candidate that comes out of assembly, then effectively we will have our candidate coming out of those assemblies, be they the district assemblies, the county assembly. And only if we have more than one candidate that comes out of the assembly process, or if we have a candidate who is petitioning through the petition process, then we will have a primary. So for many seats, it may be possible that we'd have no primary, that effectively we would know who our candidate is coming out of assembly. I hope that's all clear as mud. This is my almost the last slide, and then I'll throw it open for some discussion. So how to get involved? First of all, run for something. We owe it to the voters to put forth candidates. The state affords certain privileges to the major political parties with respect to organizing. The state pays for our primaries. The state makes things available. The state allows us to become election judges. The state affords a certain amount of accommodation to the political parties. In return, it is the responsibilities of the parties to bring forth candidates so that the voters have choices. And that means sometimes even when a district may be, very difficult to imagine that a Democratic Party candidate would be successful, it is still worthy and meritorious to run for that seat, if for no other reason than to bring forth our ideas, to bring forth our values. It helps to get out the vote. When people and when voters see that there is a Democrat across the board filling the slate, then we would be in that helps us to grow the party. So if you are someone who is thinking of running for an office, I would encourage you to do so, even if it's an office that may be difficult in a kind of a tough road to hoe. But running for something is a valuable exercise in democracy, and we really have to just hold up our candidates and be grateful to them for what they're doing. You can volunteer. You can volunteer to help the local party in our get out the vote efforts, and you can and there's lots of roles to do, particularly as we get into from canvassing, from calling, from administrative work in the office. All of those things are being important. You can volunteer for a candidate campaign. Once we get through assembly, we will be having volunteer days and things like that. I've been talking with the volunteer coordinators about these to help connect volunteers who are interested in working for campaigns. We do get volunteers who call the office and say, I want to get involved and I want to work on a campaign. And we've been building our database so we're clear as to who those people are. And as people come forward, as we have candidates, we'll help to connect them directly to the campaigns. And then finally, become an election judge. I cannot underscore the importance of this role. These really are the people that are safeguarding our democracy. I know it's a big ask because it requires, if you've got a job, it's hard to do if you're working outside the home for pay. But these are paid positions, and they really start up a few weeks before, in some cases, the election, and run all the way through, and then all the way to the end, even post-election as part of the certifications. So those are ways to become involved. Okay, I have done a ton of talking here, and everybody has been very patient with me. I'm going to throw it open for just any open discussion on any topic that anybody wants to cover. So raise your hand and the floor is yours.
If not, we have a cool Christmas song to send you out with. So we
We
will.
do. I do it. Before we go there, I have one other slide I wanted to share.
I was going to say, you hit that last slide.
I have one more plug to make, but let's pause a little bit, see if anybody has anything they want to say. Mike, I'm going to ask you, anything you want to raise? Mike, today.
Yeah, well, while you were talking, I was listening carefully, of course, but I was also buying a ticket to the dinner and getting a package with that. So hopefully everybody's going to buy a ticket, and hopefully we'll all be able to be there, and it'll be a great time. I had a question for the silent auction. Who's taking donations, or what? How do you donate items for that?
Yeah, our silent auction team is, and Mike, you're stealing my thunder. I'll go ahead and go to that. So I'll answer that question. So we can come back to the discussion, but because Mike raised it, I'll go ahead and answer this. And then Renee, I'll come to your question in a moment. So what Mike is talking about is our gala and silent auction, which is on Saturday, January 29th from 5:30 to 9 p.m. We'll have a full program. Two speakers that we'll be featuring are, and they're both confirmed, Senator Michael Bennett and Dr. Lisa Calderon, who is the executive director of Emerge Colorado. The location will be the Antlers Hotel, but we will be streaming this. So there are options to join virtually, and we want to be as inclusive as we can. Now, we are conscious, very conscious of what's going on, and this pandemic is not over. But things are starting to opening up a bit. We are going to be requiring everybody who attends to show proof of vaccination required for entry. As we come through registration, we're going to be requiring everybody to be wearing masks until you're seated at your table. And we will have the wait staff wearing their masks. So we will be taking some steps and precautions. Happy to answer any questions anyone may have about that. Volunteers are needed. We also have a number of folks who have offered some tickets for volunteers who are actually helping on the day of the event. So if you're someone who would like to attend in person, but the ticket price is a little steep, give me a call personally. If you're able to help out at the registration desk a little bit beforehand, I think we can likely throw you a ticket and make sure that you can participate. We don't want to be exclusive. We want to make sure everybody's welcome. Now to get to Mike's question, Linda Sharp and Susan Gasca are heading up our silent auction efforts. If you call the office or just send an email to the EPC Dems, Linda is checking it daily. I will also let her know, Mike, that you raised the question so she can give you a call. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yep, that's good. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. So I will go back. I think I saw Renee's hand up next. Renee?
Hey, I was just curious, and you kind of addressed it a little bit. If there was someone who wants to attend the gala but maybe can't afford it, because I really want to try to encourage precinct organizers here in my house district to join, and so I thought, well, maybe I don't know if there's a way for us to create a fund that I'd be happy to contribute to maybe offset the cost of tickets for some folks who maybe would like to attend, but they just can't swing it financially.
Yep. Renee, give me a call we'll work each person on a case-by-case basis. If there are worthy volunteers out there who have been putting time and effort already into party efforts, we'll find a way. I'll just say that right now. So
Thank you.
give me a call tomorrow, and I'll be happy to talk through with you.
right.
Lois?
Hi. My brain got stuck on thinking about caucuses.
Okay.
About House districts. And does that mean if maybe there's 50 precincts in a House district and we're all going to be located in a school gym, that each precinct would still have an opportunity to elect precinct officers and do all of the little decision-making things we need to do?
I'm going to have to say that we are, and the PTO specifically is still working through that.
Okay.
And to determine if there's a way that, whether the way it's been done in the past is still exactly the way in the future. And we have to face up against some technical limitations that, as well. So
Okay. I'm just jumping the gun.
it's
All right.
a TBD, but it is top of mind. Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
And any other questions? Lois, your hand is still up. Does that answer your question? I know it doesn't answer your question, but at least respond to the question.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. And okay, any other questions out there? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody, and I also want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season and a very merry new year. We have a lot of work ahead of us. We will have a very competitive general election cycle in 2022. I also want to share with you that across the state and in El Paso County, no different than in most other areas of the state, with a few exceptions, voter turnout was very low. And when voter turnout is very low, then groups that are well-funded with a lot of dark money were able to come in and put a lot of money into specific school board races. And as a result, there were some pretty extreme people who were elected to local school boards. And if we let that happen again in the general election, then we may very well face a situation where we have an outcome that's not good. So my encouragement is not just, I'm pretty confident everybody on this call will likely vote, but we need to do more than just that. We need to encourage all Democrats to vote. We need to be working hard to persuade unaffiliated voters and doing everything we can in 2022 to get out the vote. It is that important. I know we say that in every election, that this is the most important election, but we've seen some assaults on our democracy that I won't say have never happened, because they have happened in the past. And we've been fortunate in the past that we have overcome those as a country. But we can't rest on that. We can't let down our guard. And the most, safest way to ensure that we are able to preserve, our democracy is by voting. And that is the party plays an important role in that. And that's a big part of what I think I'm going to ask everybody. I do ask everybody on this call to be part of. So with that said, I will wish you a very good evening, and I'll leave it to our jingles. So Chandra, take it away.
Here comes Santa Caucus, here comes Santa Caucus, right down Santa Caucus Lane. Deputies and the party and all the volunteers pulling on the rein. Bells are ringing, candidates speaking, all is harried and bright. Pick your candidates and call your neighbors, Santa Caucus comes March 5. Here comes Santa Caucus, here comes Santa Caucus, right down Santa Caucus Lane. We've got a slate that's filled with Dems and we'll need delegates again. Hear those platforms jingle jangle, oh, what a beautiful sight. Jump in line and choose your reps, cause Santa Caucus comes March 5. Here comes Santa Caucus, right down Santa Caucus Lane. Boats come around when Dems show up, it's caucus time again. Peace on earth will come to all if we defeat the right. Let's give thanks to the Constitution, Santa Caucus comes March 5. Here comes Santa Caucus, here comes Santa Caucus, right down Santa Caucus Lane. We've got a slate that's filled with Dems, we'll need delegates again. Hear those platforms jingle jangle, oh what a beautiful sight. Jump in line and choose your reps, cause Santa Caucus comes March 5. Jump in line and choose your reps, cause Santa Caucus comes March 5.
See you at the polls.
Okay, thank you, folks. Have a great evening.